Hey there guys, what's going on? It's Puskas for DS Sports as always, and we are back. It's been a very long time, I know, and I say that a lot, but I've been back. I've been away on holiday recently and I've been trying to find the motivation to get back into it. It's been a bit of a tricky time on that front, but we're back, we're continuing. We're long awaiting the continuation of this series of A Nation's Greatest, where we look at historic footballing figures who have come out of perhaps maybe not obscure countries that don't do so well in a sort of competitive sense, or are amongst the top 5 leagues in Europe, or so on and so forth. So we're continuing that series. We previously looked at George Weah out of Liberia, now Liberian president, and a former Ballon d'Or winner, the only African Ballon d'Or winner. But this time we're looking at probably the most incredible figure of the 20th century. Going back to the 50s and 60s and even the 40s as well, we are looking at the one who provided the big goal tallies before Messi and Ronaldo came along. We are going to be looking at Ferenc Puskas. We're looking at Ferenc Puskas from Hungary, born on the 2nd of April 1927, and he died on the 17th of November 2006 at the age of 79, should I say. A forward player, a prolific forward player, like I've said, full of goals, and he only played for 2 clubs, and amazingly he played for 2 countries. We'll go on to that in just a second. One of the countries obviously we know that he's played for, one of the most historic periods in the country's history on the footballing front. But going back to the very beginning, we start in 1943 during the Second World War, where he joined Kispest as a young player. He made his debut at 16. It started off as Kispest before it then changed to Budapest Honved in, I think it was the 50s. I might be unsure on that one. But yeah, it was a team that his father actually coached as well. So it's obviously a big meaning to the club for Ferenc Puskas and the Puskas family. In that time he played 350 games, and well, this is where it starts really. 358 goals. So he averaged more than a goal a game, which is absolutely incredible. Like I say, it was the stats, the goal scoring stats that was original amongst Ferenc Puskas' career. Before we saw the amazing statistics of Messi, Ronaldo of nowadays. Yeah, pretty incredible goal scoring record. He was there for 13 years, and in that time he won 5 Hungarian titles, and was a top scorer in 4 out of the 5 seasons when he was in Hungary, which is amazing considering his goal scoring record that he wasn't top goal scorer for all 5 years. In that time he was named World Player of the Year in 1953, and was also with the Hungarian national team in that time. He was the Olympic champion. He was 1952 Olympic champion, and obviously that was in the midst of the early 50s era of the mighty Magyars, one of the most incredible teams we've ever seen in football. Probably one of the most underachieving teams, you could argue, when you think about it. They had incredible players. They had Hidegoti, Shibor, Kokshish, and they played a really incredible 4-2-4. I think it was even a WM at some points as well, with the 3-2-2-3 as well, with obviously Ferenc Puskas right in the forward line in those senses. And obviously the 2 most famous results we've ever seen were when Hungary came to England. I think it was in 53, and won 6-3, and then not long after, I think it was the following year, or at some point along the lines, some point in the future, they then beat them 7-1, and it was amazing considering that England had the likes of Stan Mortensen, amongst a lot of other players as well. A few of them have kind of slipped my mind at the moment. But yeah, like we say, Olympic champion 1952 with the mighty Magyars, and then was runner-up in the 1954 World Cup, but he was top scorer in that tournament, with the Hungarians losing to West Germany in the final that year. So an illustrious career, and this is before we've really got on to like the most, like his most prominent, like when we talk about, obviously he was at Kispest or Honvéd in Budapest. He then in 1958 moved to Real Madrid. There was a falling out, I believe, that occurred with his old club, which meant that he then I think it was when like tensions began to grow in the region. I think I didn't do my research, but I've kind of forgotten it now. But I believed he was suspended for I think 12 months or something along those lines. I might be quite wrong on that one. That's a bit unprofessional on my part, not doing enough research there, or certainly not remembering it. This was all done while I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago. So and I was eager to get a video out there. So anyway, so there's that, and he was suspended for 12 months because he breached his contract as a result of him refusing to go back to Hungary, and there was a lot of rumours going around about the time, like when they were talking about where he might go next after that. I think there was rumours that I think the manager of the team that was on the end of the 1958 Munich disaster at Manchester United, Sir Matt Busby, was it Matt Busby? I can't remember. I think it may have been Matt Busby, although I can't remember if he died in the accident or not. So there was talk about him, or the manager at Manchester United at that time, wanting to rebuild the team that obviously was decimated by this horrible disaster, and they wanted Ferenc Puskas to come in and be a part of that, and probably basically be the one they build the team round, as obviously the prolific figure that he was. But unfortunately there was rules in 1958 at that time regarding foreign players in the Premier League, or the top flight of English football at the time. So as a result, he was unable to sign a contract and become a Manchester United player at that time. And from there he then went to Real Madrid, and well, this was where his achievements kind of really stood out at this point, or certainly from a team perspective, maybe not so much a personal perspective, but nonetheless he was a big part of the team that formed with Real Madrid. He played from 1958 to 1966, and in that time he played 180 times and scored 186 goals, which again, more than a goal a game. More than a goal a game. A bit more of a sort of staggered spell in this I guess, with only playing only 180 games in 8 seasons. I guess you could argue that's a relatively decent amount. I think it was about 20 a season, something like that, or yeah, it's around 20-25 a season, so it's still good going, and yeah, obviously still a prolific goal scorer in his time. And in that time he won 5 Spanish titles and was also 4 times a Pichichi winner. So obviously very much mirroring the accolades that he achieved in Hungary, in the Hungarian top flight, but in a much shorter spell at Real Madrid as well. So incredible stats, but obviously this was the Real Madrid team that were so dominant in this era. In this era when they won the first 5 European Cups from 1956 to 1960, and obviously Puskas was involved in 3 of those titles as well. So it's so 1958 he came in, won the title in I think he came in like January or something like that in 58, and then became part of the 58 winning side, then 59, then 60, before they were then toppled by Benfica, albeit indirectly. Benfica, I remember, beat Barcelona in the 1961 final. before Real Madrid would then play Benfica again, would then play Benfica in the 62 final, which we saw as like the changing of the guard somewhat from Real Madrid not being the dominant force that they were. But yeah, going back to what I was saying about Puskas, he was a big part of this team, obviously playing alongside Alfredo Di Stefano as well, who's iconic figure, probably just as great as he was. But at this point they were playing in their 30s, they were both around the same age, so yeah, something like they were in their sort of late 30s, their early 30s at this point. So yeah, so as a result, we could kind of see the changing of the guard in that respect, with you know, that generation of the Real Madrid team getting older, and as a result them winning less and less accolades. But nonetheless, like we say, 3 European Cups, 5 Spanish titles, and 4 Pichichi winners. 4 Pichichi wins as well. Obviously Pichichi being the Spanish top goal scorer award over the league season. So still really good going, especially when he's won 4 Pichichis ahead of Alfredo Di Stefano. So you can't really argue with that. You obviously see that. Obviously he was good in Hungary, but he then went on to do it at a much higher level as well in terms of domestic football. So yeah, very hard to argue Puskas' ability. Obviously just a serial goal scorer and a brilliant sort of original number 9, and so to speak, in terms of what a goal scoring number 9 should be. So totaling all up, from a club level, like we say, he only played at 2 clubs over 23 years, with a year hiatus in between for his breach of contract, like we said. In that he plays 530 club games and scored 544 goals, which in my opinion is just ridiculous. And while he was in Hungary, between 1945 and 1956, he obviously played with the Magyars, played in the national team, played 85 times in the national team and scored 85 goals, so bang on a goal a game. And yeah, it's just uncanny really when you think about, you know, you've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who's just bordering on 100 goals now. He's played 150, 160 times to get there, and he's done that now. Lionel Messi has scored, I think, 50 or 60 in Argentina goals. He's got 100 plus caps as well, I believe. So yeah, it's quite uncanny really, the way that like his goal scoring record stood up. And he played 8 games a year and was scoring at 8 goals a year, so, or on average about that as well. So it's incredible. But obviously the wee tangent to that was, obviously that was in 1956. Obviously that breach of contract was the signal of the end of his international career in Hungary. But then 1961 to 1962, which included the 1962 World Cup, Ferenc Puskas declared his allegiance to Spain after what I'd imagine would be seeing off the citizenship laws, to then, well, being there for 3 years, or being a citizen for 3 years while playing for Real Madrid. He then was able to declare his allegiance for Spain and play in the 1962 World Cup. And he only plays 4 times, and I think in that World Cup they didn't get beyond sort of early stages of that. Despite having Puskas in the squad, he would score 5 goals in 4 games for Spain. So obviously still a goal a game, but obviously 5 and 4. I mean, I'm looking at nowadays, you've got Erling Braut Haaland has played 3 games and scored 7 goals for Dortmund in the more modern age. So there are that 5 and 4 is more common, but it still doesn't take from the fact that he had still a brilliant clip. So add on those 90 goals he scored in the 89 international games for both Hungary and Spain. That means he scored 634 goals in 629 games, which is just ridiculous if you ask me. It's just remarkable the career he's had and what he's been able to achieve. He then obviously went on to become a manager, but that was a lot less successful. I think the highlight of that was when they was when he guided Panathinaikos to a European Cup. I think it was in 1980, or it was a 1980. Sorry, the European Cup final, should I say, in I believe it was 1980, and they lost to Ajax 2-0. But yeah, obviously Ajax at that time were under Rinus Michels, who was masterminding sort of total football, the total football era of Dutch football at the time. Obviously one of the most renowned sort of team stylistic eras of all time. So, and in that time, obviously with Panathinaikos being in the final, they're the only Greek team to reach a European final, both in a Champions League sense and in what we now know as the Europa League sense. Obviously the UEFA Cup before that, Cup Winners' Cup as well. Nobody's done it. No Greek team's done it. So yeah, an historic final as well, but nonetheless an impressive one, but was very much the sort of glowing light of Puskas's international career. I think he did go on and manage Hungary at times as well, but not for a very long spell from what I can recall, and he went to so many different places around Europe, South America, to go manage football. He never had that big club job. Like, he never went to Real Madrid, he never went to any kind of European giant, so to speak. So obviously his managerial career was never as prolific or as successful as his actual playing career, but nonetheless, guys, a wonderful career. 79 years old. He died in 17th of November in 2006, like I mentioned at the top of the episode. Yeah, a brilliant footballer, someone who I admire, and someone who I've just thought, wow, an incredible player, something that not really anyone has managed to like topple or emulate in terms of goal a game. I mean, we talk about Real Madrid. We obviously had Cristiano Ronaldo. Real Madrid was a goal a game, but obviously in his career he's not been a goal a game. So yeah, like, it was remarkable. It was the stats that we never saw up until Messi and Ronaldo came along and were in their prime, basically. They never did it at a young age or anything like that. So a remarkable career, a remarkable player, and a historic figure in Hungary as well. Someone who is very well celebrated in Hungary. I believe there's streets, train stations, and even the National Football Stadium, which is, I believe, going to be one of the host stadiums of Euro 2020 as well. So, and I believe it was they designed that stadium for it to be. They designed the new stadium for the tournament, and were able to put the stadium in his name as well, which is a touching tribute, of course, but nonetheless, very well deserved in terms of what he was able to achieve with the Hungarian national team as well. So yeah, brilliant career, brilliant player. We're gonna leave it there, guys. I'm gonna be uploading a few more. I've got a few more ideas coming up, a few more players lined up that I'm gonna talk about, research a bit more about, and I'll get those episodes up in the coming few days as well. So until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a long time coming for me to get back into this, but yeah, celebrated Hungarian player Ferenc Puskas is indeed our nation's greatest. Until the next one, guys, we'll see you guys very soon. Take care.